Hello and welcome to the Bearded Mystic podcast, and I am your host, Rahul N Singh. Thank you for taking out the time today to either watch or listen to this podcast episode. If you're listening to this for the first time or you are here again, just remember to like, comment and subscribe, and that this channel is all about understanding Advaita Vedanta, all about understanding non-duality as our fundamental truth and fundamental true nature as well. So today I wanted to talk about, and it's been something that's been playing on my mind quite a bit because it's very easy for us to, and this has been a learning curve for me as well, where we can abandon God in spirituality. And is there a need or a point in abandoning God in spirituality? Is there a reason for this? Does it need to happen? So I wanted to approach it in a different way on why the personal God, why Ishvara is necessary now, and why Advaita Vedanta speaks about it. One thing I'm going to mention is that with Ishvara, it's very different to Nirakar. So this is fundamental to understanding in Vedanta. Ishvara and Nirakar or Brahman are two different things. And I will say that, and we'll go into this, because I'm going to go into why it's necessary, and then I'm going to look at the possible questions that come about, because I think people think there is no God, but it's not about whether there is a God or not. It's about understanding, when we're studying Vedanta, what actually helps us go further, and Ishvara can be beneficial as a concept to help us go further. Now, yes, the truth has no concept, that I understand that, but at the end of the day, we have a mind. Our mind has to understand this truth in order to even entertain abandoning its incessant chatter. So let's understand that also. But anyway, why is Ishvara important? Why is it necessary? Why is it compatible actually in Advaita Vedanta? And I think if you go without God in Advaita Vedanta, I think you miss out a lot. And this is sometimes not discussed enough, hence I'm discussing it, and it's an important part of my course as well. So whatever I'm saying today is literally a snippet of what the course is going to be dealing with when it comes to Ishvara. And yes, Ishvara is a massive part to play in the course, and that's why it's easier to rest in formless awareness, because we deal with Ishvara and we deal with the Jiva and we deal with all those things. So yes, we must look at our sadhana, our spiritual practice. Now, a lot of people question me or ask questions that, how can I improve my sadhana? How can I improve my spiritual practice? I'm stuck. What can I do? Is there anything that can help me? And in my opinion, the answer always comes to Bhakti. I don't know why, but I feel Bhakti is the answer, always. And that's because Bhakti utilizes the mind and limits the ego. And that's good. Now, what can happen with if you just go on the jnana aspect, the knowledge aspect? One can get knowledge, but it can be very dry, one. Two, it will have no output. For example, you reach a dead end, but it's not really the dead end, it's the end of the path. After that, it's pathless. But we don't know what to do with a pathless path. We do not know what to do in uncharted territory. We do not know what to do when we've been limited and bound by some way with the knowledge, how we can go boundless and limitless. So these fundamental things are only understood once we kind of deal a lot with the background information that's required. So without further ado, that was a long introduction. But here we go. So Ishvara is the bridge between duality and non-duality. It's interesting, right? It's a bridge. Now, yes, Advaita completely believes Brahman is non-dual. It alone is real. It's omnipresent. It's the only one present here. Absolutely true. But the mind cannot grasp this truth directly, and I really hesitate sometimes to speak about the direct truth, because I understand that only a few people can get it. And I want my message to reach out to more and more people, because when they come across the direct truth, it's not uncharted territory then. It's something they recognize. And that's what background work does. It actually addresses that uncharted territory that you're like, oh, I've been here before. And you didn't even know you were there. And that's the whole point. But if I just say, well, there's only just this here, and I just end it there, it's good, but it's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to be like swimming in a vast ocean without any equipment of survival. And we need to survive when we're in this territory. So anyway, the mind cannot grasp this truth directly. But Ishvara, the personal God, if we utilize this, then it functions as an intermediary reality, like a reality in between that can just kind of help. So we know it's not the ultimate, but we know it's not unreal either, because for something to be unreal means that it's non-existent, and it's constantly changing. Ishvara does not change. So it's a necessary stepping stone for the aspirant to cross the apparent duality to non-duality. So Ishvara, it has attributes. It's also formless, which helps. So because it's formless, we know that we don't have to put an image on it. We don't have to create it as a man up in the sky. It's in this reality itself. But we use this personal God, we utilize Ishvara just to kind of get us to non-duality. So it's a stepping stone, not a place to stay. So it's not a destination. Yeah, Ishvara is not a destination. Brahman is the destination, but you could say a service stop, or in England they call it a service station. I don't know what they call it here in the US, but a rest area. That's what Ishvara is. It's just a way to help you get to your destination, to get recharged. So now, as I mentioned, Bhakti here, devotion, helps in purifying the mind. And if you look at my previous episode, not previous, but a few episodes, I've discussed the pitfalls of Bhakti. That's to help us on the non-dual path to keep our focus on Brahman, focus on the ultimate destination. But here, Bhakti definitely purifies the mind, and a pure mind, when we do Chitta Shuddhi, this again, it's a big part of my course. It's a precondition for Gyan. If our mind is not pure, it's not actually going to grasp the knowledge. Now, yes, it itself, Brahman, is pure. And if you fully align to this Brahman, this Nirakar, this non-dual reality, yes, your mind will be pure as a result, by default. However, what ultimately happens is that we see the direct truth, but if the mind isn't pure, it will somehow utilize that pure seeing as an egoic thing. And that's what we got to avoid doing. That if you have that feeling that, oh, I'm enlightened and I'm better, then it's not, you haven't got a purified mind, in my opinion. So remember, it's a precondition for Gyan. And Bhakti to Ishvara, Bhakti in general, it helps dissolve the ego massively. I mean, imagine that you're saying, Ishvara, you're everything. I am nothing. To do that takes incredible guts. And you don't do it because of an inferiority complex. Yeah, you do it because you're humbled. Not because of inferiority complex. There's a slight difference. If you say I am nothing, you're not saying it because of you feel that you have attributes of nothing. You have no attributes. No. What you realize, your attributes are there because of Ishvara. So there's a difference. And therefore, if you have attachments, well, Ishvara helps in that too. If you have a problem, if you're going through grief because you lost a loved one, Ishvara helps because you can ask for strength. Maybe you find that right now you do not have the strength to deal with that loss. So you ask Ishvara, you ask God, and you say, come on, can you give me some help, guidance, strength to deal with this? And I have found this in my own practice. Yes, it does help. It does give you strength. And that strength is there because Ishvara is present within you. And we only realize that. It is the Antaryami. We only realize that when we ask and then we are open to that strength being unleashed. So before, if we just use our mind, it's limited. But when we use Ishvara, it becomes limitless. It becomes very vast. And that's why we utilize Ishvara's help in these things. And then we have Rajasic and Dhamasic tendencies. We may feel lazy some days. Sometimes I feel it too, like I don't want to do a video. But I end up doing it because I ask Ishvara for help. I want to actually create a video, and one can get hyper about certain things that can happen. So to avoid those tendencies, or to deal with those tendencies effectively, you can ask Ishvara to help. That there's this hyperactivity in the mind's going crazy, it's feeling anxious, can you calm it down? And Ishvara will calm it down. If you're feeling lazy and you're procrastinating, Ishvara will help to motivate you to go further, especially if you're on the spiritual path. We've got to be inspired to do anything on the spiritual path. If we're not doing anything for spirituality, if our spirituality is just conditioned to watching YouTube videos, but not implementing it into our own life, then we are full of dhamasic energy. Yeah? If that's procrastination, that's laziness. But if we are in sattvic, then we are always looking for a way to see something as spiritual practice. So, Shankaracharya and maybe his disciples, most likely, they composed devotional hymns, and whether that was to Shiva, to Vishnu, to Devi, for sadhakas, there's a reason why that was entertained. And this just helps bring about a feeling of emotion, and it inspires you to be more spiritual. So yes, that's very important to understand. Then Saguna Brahman, or Ishvara, Brahman with attributes, is necessary for upasana, for meditation and worship. One thing I will say, you cannot meditate on the unmanifest, the attributeless Nirgun Brahman. You can't meditate upon it. Yeah. If you meditate upon it, it becomes a meditation. It can never be meditated upon as an object, because it is the one meditating. Nirgun Brahman will always be the one meditating, and it becomes a meditation. So, but you can't meditate upon it. You can only be it. And because you are it, right? So that's essentially understood. So our mind will need a form, it will need a name, it will need a relationship, it will need some attribute. And that's why, Ishvara, as Saguna Brahman, provides that focus. So we can utilize anyone as our Ishtevta. That can be Sri Ram, that can be Sri Krishna, that can be Shiva, that can be any personal deity, that can be your guru as well. Because even in the Gita, it's mentioned how, if one had to meditate on the formless, on the absolute, on the unmanifest, it's very difficult if you're fully invested in this body and mind. So to deal with the body and mind, you give it a name and a form to focus on that is higher than it. Once that person is able to deal with, once that person meditates upon the higher being, then the door for Nirgun Brahman opens up, of that realization that is what it is. Otherwise, it will remain stuck on body and mind. And that's why a guru is necessary on these steps. It's not because the guru just teaches you. The guru then guides you, helps you go from one step to another. And that's what's very important. A guru is not there just to give a blanket discourse and then go. A guru is there to help you on each step of the way, so you can become what you really are. So you can be what you really are, not become. You already are it. See, this is what language does. Now, Ishvara is also the dispenser of karma. This is very important. It's the one that gives out karma, and the number one thing that we're dealing in life is our karma, right? So, when we look at karma, the law of cause and effect, we need a conscious administrator. We need someone that can administrate our karma, and that's what Ishvara does. And that's why we ask Ishvara for guidance on how to transcend karma. So without belief in Ishvara, our karma becomes mechanical. So we just do action for the sake of doing action, and it's devoid of any moral or spiritual significance. So when we believe in Ishvara, so what happens then? We have a divine purpose. Once we have that divine purpose, then you know what? Every action we do is divine. Every action we want to do for ourselves and even for others is divine. It's a spiritual practice. You're seeing Ishvara in all. And that's important. We need to do that. Then it becomes karma yoga. Otherwise, we're just doing actions for the sake of it. And those actions will cause either more harm, or they will accumulate some sort of gift for the future. But we want to go beyond that. So that's why Ishvara is a good helping tool for us to do good karma, by understanding that it is doing everything, not us. So if Ishvara gives the results of action, that means it sets up the moral fabric of the universe. So if you see how the universe gets together and does things, it's all because of Ishvara, all because of this Brahman. Well, because of Ishvara. So then it leads to surrender to Ishvara, leads to inner freedom. This is also important. Surrendering. So if you know the 8 limbs to Patanjali's yoga, you know that one of the niyamas in yoga is Ishvara Pranidhana. So that means surrendering to Ishvara. And this is emphasized also in Advaita. Surrendering to Ishvara helps us. And it's through surrender, this individual ego of ours weakens, it dissolves, and it becomes more receptive to the ultimate truth, to Gyan. It makes us ready for Brahm Gyan. So when we surrender to Ishvara, yes, it may seem like we're surrendering to a formless reality that has attributes. But what's happening there is whatever negativities, whatever obstacles, Ishvara will deal with them. Ishvara will be the one that acts within us. So what we say is that, whatever you do, Ishvara, that will be done. And that's not duality, that's not dualistic thinking. It's a matter, actually it's a method for dissolving the doership, the karta bhav. We have the karta bhav, that I am the doer. But when we say you are the doer, and whatever you do will be done, then not only do we dissolve the karta bhav, the doer aspect, that means we don't accumulate karma. Second positive. Third positive, everything we do has a spiritual significance and therefore is divine action. And that's what we should aim to do. So once we do that, then we are, even the surrendering, we say, you are the one that provides the strength to surrender. How can I surrender? This ego is too feeble to surrender. But you provide that strength for the ego to dissolve. There's a way of being, and just simply doing this can take us so far in a spiritual journey. And for years I used to say there's no personal God, but in the last few years I've kind of become open to it as necessary, and if it's described in the right manner. So if you notice, there's not a doctrine to be made out of this because it's about, you can't stay stuck on this Ishvara aspect. You have to go to Nirgun Brahman. So anyway, let's carry on. So we have Guru as Ishvara. So we know that, in traditional Advaita, the Guru is not just a teacher, but they're the living embodiment of Ishvara. They hold all the blessings. They provide that grace. And, in my own life, my Guru has been very helpful. And yes, they are an embodiment of Ishvara. I see them as that. And I see them as the ultimate. So when we see the Guru as Ishvara, it helps us dissolve our ego very easily. That, who am I? My Guru has given me everything. Everything I've attained is because of my Guru. And this opens one up to grace. Because we are not the one doing the effort. It's our Guru that is giving us, that is doing the effort for us. It's an interesting way of seeing things. So, and the Guru has always been praised. There's a whole Guru Gita. Adi Shankaraji did the Guru Ashtakam. We can even go through that one day. Right now, I'm actually reading a book on Sri Narayana Guru, and his and actually I know of him only because of one of my listeners, Dylanji. He is the one that told me about Sri Narayana Guru and Guruji, and because of him, and he was a master, I think, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and now people are looking into him. And not only was he a good propounder of Advaita, but he also brought it into the social fabric. So he would, speak heavily against the caste system, while being a great Advaitin practitioner or teacher or guru. So right now I'm reading that, and it's true. And in there, I just read in there about the Guru Ashtakam and how he speaks on that. And we should, praise the Guru for everything the Guru does for us. And if we're on the path of spirituality, it's all because of the Guru. We've been inspired by someone. That inspiration, whoever it may be, is worthy of our worship. Now, even if the world says your Guru's fake, even then, if that Guru's helped you, that Guru's helped you. You can't take that out. Nobody can take that away from you, and nobody should take that away from you. Not even the Guru can take that away from you. That's the interesting thing. So just remember that. But yes, that's another aspect. So Ishvara is not to be denied. So it's not like, once you know what Nirgun Brahman is, then you deny Ishvara. And this is what I did for many years, and I'm warning you against it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. There's one thing about understanding Nirgun Brahman and understanding how Nirgun Brahman functions in the universe, and through Ishvara. Once that missing link was opened for me, a lot of things made sense. Otherwise, what was happening was there was a conflict within me. But the Ishvara aspect has actually abolished all those conflicts that I had of knowledge. So yes, the final teaching of Advaita is Ishvara and the Jiva are both resolved into Brahman. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmeva Na Apara. So this realization only comes after one has matured through a relationship with Ishvara, and hence Ishvara is discussed in my course, because it's really important for us to understand the power that Ishvara has on our Jiva. When the Jiva is associated to the body and mind, it links itself to the body and mind. How can it transcend it? That's the whole point. why Ishvara is used, because once the Jeev can relate to something, Ishvara is able to deal with it. And so it's kind of like, when you have a splinter in your finger and you use another, you use a needle, or you use another kind of small piece of wood to take that splinter out. Once you take that splinter out, or say a thorn, you throw both away. The splinter or the thorn inside your finger, and the thorn that was used to take that thorn out. Just like, but remember, but that's one way. That's like the full dissolution, right? But actually, Ishvara should be seen as not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's saying. But a better example would be this, that, say you utilize a ladder because you have to reach the roof and clean the roof, or you have to fix something on the roof. Maybe you want to put Christmas lights on the roof. So you use a ladder to, reach to the rooftop. But in order to come down, you'll need the ladder still. So you don't drop the ladder. You don't stay on the ladder. You go onto the roof, but you never remove the ladder, because it may be needed in the future. You never know what can happen. So just remember that you may still need that ladder. So same way, even though you may get to understand what Brahman is intellectually, don't throw that ladder away until you are fully resting in and as formless awareness. Only then, when you understand that you are fully this Nirgam Brahman, then there's no need to even think of the ladder. You don't have to drop the ladder, you don't have to think about it. Then you can transcend it. Everything remains as it is. But if you are still not entirely sure, you think this may be it, you think you may have got to Atma Bodh, then still keep the concept of Ishvara and Jeev to help you. So one thing I've mentioned, and when it comes to the psychological and emotional support that Ishvara can bring, humans themselves, we need meaning, we need guidance, and we need emotional connection. If we don't have, say, a physical satsang to go where we are learning about the divine and we are contemplating upon the divine, it's important to have that meaning, have that guidance and emotional connection that a community normally brings. But say you don't have a community near you, or the community that you go to is not providing you that, then we need meaning. We need support. So Ishvara gives the seeker that refuge. Ishvara is someone that we can pray to, we can lean on, and we can love, even as we move more towards the Gyan, more towards Atma Bodh, more towards self-realization. And it's absolutely fine. You can seek refuge in Ishvara, that, please bless me, please keep me in your shelter. Or you're going through a tough time, Ishvara can be there for you to rely on. And remember, Ishvara contains all the energy of this universe, because the universe is in motion because of Ishvara. The laws of Ishvara, the karma of that comes is from Ishvara. So remember, it is the administrator of karma. So you can pray to this. You can lean on Ishvara for support in your spiritual practice, and you can love Ishvara. Most important thing, and that love is unconditional. Ishvara is not loving you because of a reason. Ishvara is love. Therefore, love is unconditional here. And that is a good thing for us to emulate, to having that unconditional love. So you can utilize this as you are moving more towards the divine. And you see, without this, as I mentioned before, non-duality becomes really dry, abstract, and easy to misinterpret as nihilism or apathy, or constantly we see this with the Neo-Advaitins. And this way, we are utilizing this mind in a positive manner. By having ourselves surrender to Ishvara, it's a positive thing. So, as we know, and this is backed by the Gita as well, and we know that Sri Krishna, which is an inviting, let me make this one clear. The Bhagavad Gita is a text of Advaita Vedanta. To see it as anything else is not to fully understand the message of Sri Krishna. So, what we learn in the Bhagavad Gita is how to balance devotion to Krishna with the knowledge of the self. Yeah. So when we see the Virat Roop of Sri Krishna, that's Ishvara that's being presented. Yeah, that's Ishvara. So, and we know that the Atma that does not get cut, that does not get burnt, that does not get wet, that does not get dried, that is the self, that is the ultimate reality, that is Nirgun Brahman. But the Virat Roop, where Sri Krishna shows the vastness of what he is to Arjun, that is Ishvara. So we can balance both. So remember that this universe that is seen is an embodiment of Ishvara. Yeah, that's all we need to consider. So, and that's why Sri Krishna says that, after many births, the wise seek refuge in me. They look for me. They want my shelter, and they're knowing me as all that is. And he's talking to himself as Ishvara, but we ultimately know he's also talking from the aspect of Nirgun Brahman. But for those of us on the journey who are struggling in our spiritual path, we can utilize the form of Sri Krishna as Ishvara to help us. And there's nothing wrong with that. One of the final points is that Ishvara is the waking dreams organizer. I like that definition. Just like we have a dream character to explain things within a dream, there's another character that explains what's happening, or there's a narrator in the dream. We also need like a personal God, a personal narrator within this projection of Maya, of this apparent world. And Ishvara is the law and order of this universe, of this projection. And that allows us to have discipline, to have structure, and a coherent spiritual journey. One thing that I always say, people will say to me that, I find this boring in spirituality, or I find that boring in spirituality. Whether something is boring or not, one should have the discipline to transcend boring and interesting. If one is still chasing only interesting things, that's rag and dvesh. We're going through our likes and dislikes, and we're in the pair of opposites always. But discipline will be this, that when we have that faith in Ishvara, we say, you know what? All this that is presented is Ishvara's will. Whatever is presented to me today is Ishvara's will. Okay, let me be at peace. And yes, that's not acknowledging that, yes, it may be boring. And you can even say that, okay, this is boring, but I'm going to sit through it and I'm going to take in what is being said. Maybe it's not interesting my mind right now, but I am beyond the mind. Ishvara help me to transcend the mind. So this is how Ishvara can help us. So that's why Ishvara is necessary in the path of Advaita. Now, one of the most important things that I want to discuss, and that is, what if we have people who are skeptical of this? So, so one argument that people have, and it's one that is kind of common, if Brahman is the only reality, this Nirgun Brahman, so why do we bother with a personal God? Isn't it just, reinforcing duality? I can see that point, and but Advaita Vedanta would say, yes, Brahman alone is real, Brahma Satyam. But let's be honest, not every seeker is living from that realization yet. We're not. And if we're not, we best be honest about it. Just because we say Brahma Satyam doesn't mean that we actually fully realize that Brahma is Satyam. Brahman is the absolute truth, the absolute reality. So, therefore, the personal God or Ishvara is not a lie, because Ishvara is Brahman reflected through Maya, just as the Jiva is. We think we are an embodied person, and you can use Ishvara as a cosmic being that can help us transcend this embodied, limited being that we have. So until the mind is prepared and the ego is dissolved, one must begin from where one stands, and that is in the apparent duality. We think duality is real. We live in the pair of opposites. We are constantly in conflict within our own self. So until we address the duality, we can never get to Nirgun Brahman, or understand that Brahma Satyam. This Brahman alone is real. So I would even go further to say that the very idea that you can intellectually bypass devotion to go straight to non-duality is itself a function of the ego, because you're kind of saying, well, Ishvara is below me. I want to go straight to Nirgun Brahman. And that can be more harmful than beneficial. It's great, it shows passion that you want to get there, but at the same time, it's bypassing an important element. Another argument can be that, well, isn't devotion to God just an emotional feeling or a superstition? Why not just go straight to formless meditation? Why not go straight to formless awareness? And the response is simple. Emotions aren't obstacles, we have them for a reason. But they are energies that can be kind of transformed into a spiritual force, and that's called Bhakti Shakti. That's when we are able to transform our emotions for a positive. When we may have anger, we can say, let's transform that energy into divine worship. Instead of being angry, let me use this energy instead to meditate, to sing the praises of Ishvara, to sing the praises of the deity that I worship. This would just help us, when we're happy, sing the praises of the Lord. When we're angry, sing the praises of the Lord. When we are disturbed, sing the praises of the Lord. Basically, the solution is praises to the Lord. Worshipping the Lord, meaning worshipping that which you consider higher. That can be your Guru, that can be Ishvara, that can be any of the deities. So meditation on the formless, that Nirgun aspect, it is prescribed, it is necessary. That is Atma Vichara, it's needed. But remember, a significant purification and concentration is necessary first. So to prepare us, this will help. If we find ourselves stuck right now, maybe we could meditate on the formless very easily before, but now we're finding it difficult. This can actually help us. Focus on Ishvara, focus on the Ishtevta, and utilize their support to transcend whatever's blocking us. So that's important. And devotion to Ishvara is not escapism either. You're not escaping reality. You're not avoiding anything. In fact, it's a sacred discipline to surrender the ego and prepare for Gyan. So when you have devotion to Ishvara, it's actually there to help you. You're dealing with your emotions. You're saying, I acknowledge that I'm angry, but I'm not going to show this anger. I'm not going to transfer that anger into something to show more anger. I'm going to transform that anger into something positive. That's all. That's what we do. And again, if people want to say that, devotion is something that I am beyond. Well, we know that Shankaracharya or it's said that he wrote devotional hymns. I was talking about Sri Narayana Guruji. He wrote devotional hymns too. Sri Ramana Maharishi, he also wrote devotional hymns to Arunachala, the mountain. So remember that having devotion does not show emotional immaturity. In fact, it shows that you understand that emotional maturity supports spiritual maturity. So you are using that emotion for devotion. That's all. And it's really important that we do that. Then someone can say, and so I don't know why my nose is feeling itchy. I think it's sometimes nerves. Ishvara, help me. So someone can even say, why personalize the infinite? Why reduce Brahman, that is nirgun, that is attributeless, that is formless, into a being with attributes? Decent, right? Yeah. Some of us may have thought that. I certainly did. But, I realized that Brahman is not reduced at all. Nirgun Brahman stays as it is. That can never be reduced. To say that we view Brahman as less is to show that we do not understand what Brahman is. Brahman cannot change. Brahman is the ultimate, the attributeless, the formless, the changeless, the infinite. Now, remember, Ishvara is just Brahman appearing through Maya. So to deal with Maya, Ishvara is the one that helps us. That's all. Brahman is appearing as Ishvara through Maya. Yeah, so with the attributes that serve the seeker. So Ishvara can give us unconditional love. It can give us unconditional strength. It can give us unconditional hope, unconditional positivity. And that's what we need. When we're going through tough times in life, Ishvara can be that support. And so we ask for the energy of support. Now, some people may turn around and say, well, Nirgun Brahman doesn't have energy. But in Maya, Nirgun Brahman has energy, and that's seen through Ishvara. Ishvara provides that energy. And utilize that energy. Why not? If you say that energy is not real, then frankly, if you're stuck in spirituality, you're going to stay stuck. Because there's only so much Nirgun Brahman will be able to show you when you're stuck. You need to flow. And with flow, you need motion. And with motion, you need emotion. And if you have emotion, why not have it positive? Why not have it divine? Why not have it spiritual? Okay? So, a good example to use here is, and I remember seeing this in a church that I went to when I was younger, because they have stained glass windows there, and it's like sunlight that's passing through them. Now, the light is one, but when you see the stained glass window, it looks so beautiful, magnificent, and the form, the stained glass window, helps the viewer to grasp it. You need that sunlight. Yeah, so we don't limit Brahman. We engage with Brahman through a provisional form, a temporary form, to dissolve our own limitations. Yeah, so don't think of Ishvara as less. It's there to help us dissolve our own limitations. It's there to help us. It's there to help us, be there as an interim. When something is an interim form, we know it's not going to last. Upon self-realization, Ishvara will also be seen for what it is. Does Ishvara disappear after self-realization? No. Ishvara and the Jeev still remain, but you understand what they are. They're none other than your true self, this Brahman. Yeah, that's all. They don't disappear. This world of multiplicity stays. You're telling me self-realized people just don't see the world? So what they're doing on YouTube? What they're doing in their ashrams? What they're doing in their monasteries? In their temples? What they're doing even in the cave? in the Himalayas, in the forest. Yeah, basic common sense. So we don't limit Brahman by utilizing Ishvara. We engage with Brahman through this interim form of Ishvara, just to help us dissolve our own limitations, to help us dissolve our ego. Another argument could be that the concept of Ishvara is just another religious construct, another religious doctrine. Why not just be spiritual but not religious? And Advaita Vedanta was saying, fool, what are you doing? Ishvara is not a dogmatic figure. It's the intelligent order of the universe, the very power of Maya. Yeah, this is important to understand. So the idea of Ishvara is not about belief. We're not telling you to believe in Ishvara. Yeah, I'm not telling you to believe in him or to believe in it. What I am saying is, why don't you recognize the cosmic intelligence, this universal intelligence that's operating both within and without? That's all. So if we are rejecting Ishvara, that often reflects a rejection of traditional structures, which is understandable. But spirituality is about understanding that, if we mature in spirituality, we will say, I understand the reason why there's time-tested methods. There must be a reason why Ishvara was understood to be utilized by Adi Shankaraji. And that requires humility. And that's another attribute we can gain from Ishvara, humility. Despite not being seen, it operates Maya. It powers Maya. It doesn't say, oh look, I'm doing this. We can learn from that. So, yes, the idea of Ishvara is not about belief. So we need to understand that. It's that universal intelligence that's operating both within and without. It's the very power of Maya. That's one thing we can understand. So, I hinted towards this before, but, isn't Ishvara unnecessary once you realize the self? I know Brahman now. I know Nirgun Brahman. I'm resting in formless awareness. Why do I need Ishvara? Why keep that idea around? What's the need for that concept? For the Jnani, yes. Ishvara and the Jeev, and they are both seen as appearances in the Atman, in Brahman, in the self. But for society, for sadhakas, for people who are on this path of spirituality, and for dharma, Ishvara remains profoundly relevant. Absolutely. And that's why it's in the Upanishads, by the way. Ishvara is not something constructed afterwards. It's in the Upanishads. If you look at the Isha Upanishad, it's referring a lot to Ishvara. Now, Ishvara is still relevant. Think about it. If somebody's on the journey and they've not realized the self, yes, you may have realized the self, but they haven't. By saying Ishvara does not exist, it's not going to help them actually. It's going to actually be worse for them because they will not have something to stand upon. You benefited from it. Then you say, you know what? I do not want you to benefit from it. And this is what we've seen in the world. For example, I know so many people that are immigrants and who will be like, we don't want immigrants in this country. And it's the same concept. You benefited from immigration, but you don't want other people to benefit from it. And selfishness. Same thing can happen in spirituality. You benefit from it, but you don't want others to benefit from it. So, even realized beings. So, and I can vouch for this one. There's a maintenance of reverence towards Ishvara out of gratitude, not because of ignorance. And just remember, if you think that you are a pure Jnani and you're the best Jnani in the world, you realize the self, there's no one above you. But just remember, that Ramana Maharishi used to bow in front of Arunachala. And if you think you're beyond Ramana Maharishi, well, I hope nobody follows you. That's all I can say. Nisargadatta Maharaj used to visit the Samadhi place of his Guru. And he always used to say that he followed whatever his Guru said, and that's why he achieved what he achieved. That that gratitude remains. One does not say Ishvara is not needed now. One says, you know what, have full-on gratitude for Ishvara and remain in formless awareness. So another one that this is one that I hear quite a bit. Well, isn't devotion a distraction from self-inquiry? Well, if it's true devotion, real devotion, then Bhakti and Gyan are never in conflict. If you think Gyan is in conflict with Bhakti or Bhakti is in conflict with Gyan, then you understand neither of them. They are complementary. They support each other beautifully. And in fact, Buddha Bhakti, as Swami Vivekananda ji talked about, supreme devotion is identical to self-realization. And that's why we have texts like the Bhagavad Puran to be understood properly, and Viveka Chudamani. These texts are there to show us that supreme devotion is absolutely aligned to the scriptures. And self-inquiry, when it's done without humility, and devotion brings out a natural humility. Actually, if we do self-inquiry without humility, then it becomes very dry, it becomes very self-centered, it becomes very individual, and therefore our heart remains closed. But with bhakti, it keeps our heart open. So imagine doing bhakti with self-inquiry, what it can take you towards. The last one, and this is probably more relevant today than to any other time in history probably, but who knows. Well, isn't it more logical to say that consciousness just is, rather than adding a deity to the picture? And I used to think that way. Is everything I'm talking about today, everything that I'm referring to today, is literally where I have been, and where it has kind of harmed me on the spiritual journey. So, yes, from the absolute reality perspective, from that Paramarthika level, the absolute standpoint, yes, it's absolutely logical to say consciousness just is. We don't need to add anything else. Yes. How many people have reached that point that I know of? I don't know. I don't think I know anyone. Where I can say, this applies to them. But remember also that, and although it's logical to say that consciousness just is, and you don't need another deity, but logic alone doesn't transform the seeker. Nobody has become transformed due to logic. Logic helps, but logic also needs to be transcended. And most importantly in spirituality, it is grace that is necessary, not logic. Logic is helpful, but not necessary. Grace is necessary and logical and helpful. And that grace flows really well through Ishvara, or what we consider to be Ishvara. So that is really important. So, and remember, the deity is not added. People seem to think that we add a deity. No, deity is not added. The deity is how consciousness appears when we view it from the standpoint of the world. So there's the Paramarthika level, then there's Vyahavarika level. So from the Vyahavarika level, the deity is there, already present. This Ishvara is already present from the standpoint of that world. And to help us navigate this world, to transcend this world, Ishvara is used. We ask for the grace of Ishvara to transcend, so we can get to the Paramarthika level. And that's where we all will go to, hopefully. So, as you've seen from this episode, it's been a long episode. It's nearly an hour. And I've really enjoyed recording this and talking about it, because it's been one that's very important for me, where I have felt that sometimes I could have done more with allowing Ishvara to flow through than being against it. And so, yes, people who've started with me from the very beginning of my time on the podcast to today have probably seen this transformation live, where I've brought Ishvara back in, the Ishtevta back in. In fact, it wasn't that they've come back in. I've realized they've always been here, and it's best to be utilized. So I hope that this episode has helped you. If it has, please tell me. Please like this. Please share it with people that you know who are going through the same thing, or who you feel are stuck in spirituality. Trust me, if you're stuck in spirituality, Ishvara will help. And I pray that whatever is keeping you away from self-realization, whatever is blocking you, whatever obstacles you have, may Ishvara deal with them and give you the right guidance so you can move forward in your spiritual path. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, and I shall see you in the next episode. Namaste. Bye.